Today we're talking about quadratic equations. A quadratic equation is an equation of second degree and has the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is not equal to 0. As we talked about in previous things, your x squared is your quadratic term, your x term is your linear term, and c is your constant term. We will also be using the zero product property today, which is important because if you have two things being multiplied and they're both equal to 0, then you can separate them and set them both individually equal to 0. So that helps when we're solving for x's or our zeros. One of the ways we're going to solve quadratic expressions or equations is by factoring, which we've used factoring before. We talked about factoring before. So to find the solution to this quadratic equation, we're going to factor it. So we're going to draw our x, -6 goes on top, and -1 goes on the bottom. So what multiplies to -6 and adds to -1? Well, 3 and 2 multiply to 6, -3 and 2 add to -1. So my factors are x minus 3 times x plus 2 equals 0. And from here, this is where we're going to use our zero product property. And x minus 3 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. And now you're going to solve for x. So x equals 3, and x equals -2. So my solutions are 3 and -2. You do not necessarily have to write them in those little squiggly brackets. You could just box them in here. But as long as I can find your answers, we're good. Another way we're going to find solutions is by taking square roots. So if I have something like if I don't have a linear term, I have just a quadratic and a constant term, I can set it equal to that constant term. And then if there is an a, divide it and then take the square root. And when you take a square root, remember you have to do plus or minus. So for an example, we're going to have 2x squared minus 8 equals 0. So I can add 8 to both sides. So I have 2x squared equals 8. Now I want x squared by itself, so I'm going to divide by 2. So x squared equals 4. So now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And when I do that, I get x on the left side, and then I get plus or minus 2. So my answers are 2 and -2, or you could leave it as plus or minus 2. Either way. And that is the